let me ask you something. What happens when a city stops looking inward and starts listening to the ocean instead? Because that is where New Brighton lives, where Christchurch ends and the Pacific begins. And if you've ever been there, you might think it's just a beach. But that would be calling the tide just the water. Here the wind speaks first. It comes off the ocean without permission, carrying salt, weather and time. And the people here don't fight it. They adapt to it. They build with it. They become part of it. This is New Brighton, a place that has always stood slightly apart from the city it belongs to. Not disconnected, just different in the rhythm, less polished, less performative, more lived in. You see that pier? It stretches into the Pacific like a thought that refuses to end. It has been rebuilt, battered, restored again and again. And it tells you something important about this place. Nothing here stays perfect. But everything here returns. Let me take you back. Before suburbs reach this far, people come here by tram. Imagine that. Christchurch families riding out on the coast, not for convenience, but for escape, for air, for space, for something that felt less structured than the city centre. New Brighton was never an accident. It was always a release valve. And even now, that feeling remains. Because when you arrive here, the pace changes. The city feels different and distant. The noise drops away, and you are left with something simpler. Space to think. But there is another layer to this place that you only notice if you slow down long enough to see it. New Brighton has always attracted a certain kind of energy. Artists, musicians, builders of things that don't always fit neatly into the centre of the city. People who live outside the main rhythm, not by rejection, but by preference. There is creativity here. It doesn't ask for attention. It just exists in studios, garages, small venues, murals on weathered walls, and conversations that stretch long past sunsets. And that is part of what gives this place its character. Not uniformity, but expression. Because after the earthquakes, while Christchurch rebuilt its centre, New Brighton was rebuilding something quieter. Connection, identity, a sense of belonging that didn't depend on perfection. Neighbours checked on neighbours. Small businesses reopened without certainty. People stayed, not because it was easy, but because it was home. And that is where the stoicism lives, not in silence, but in persistence. People jokingly call it the pirate edge of Christchurch, and maybe that fits, not because of the ships or treasures, but because of the attitude. A coastal independence, a refusal to be neatly defined by the centre, resourceful, creative, and a little rough around the edges, but completely real. So here's the question. What kind of place produces that kind of spirit? Is it the wind, the isolation, the history of rebuilding, or is it something else? Something about living where the land meets uncertainty and turning that uncertainty into expression. Because New Brighton has never been still. It has been a destination, a tram stop, a seaside escape, a forgotten edge, a place rediscovered. It has been lost and found more than once, and yet it never disappeared. Now stand here for a moment. Watch the pier stretch into the horizon. Listen to the ocean doing what it has always done, and you start to understand something quietly powerful. This place does not compete for attention. It rewards awareness. And that is why Unseen New Zealand brings you here. Not to show you Christchurch you already know, but to show you a part of it that moves differently. The edge. The creative undercurrent. The place where resilience and expression meet the sea. Because you haven't really seen New Zealand until you've stood where the city loosens its grips, until you've felt the wind at New Brighton, until you've seen a community shaped not by survival, but by creativity and quiet strength. And when you do, you realise something simple. New Brighton is not the edge of the Christchurch. It is the one of its most honest reflections.